Good morning everybody, this is Lara from Pure Elliott Wave. Today I'm going to give you technical analysis of Bitcoin and then Elliott Wave and technical analysis of both XRP and today Solana, because Jack Frost has done a full analysis of Ethereum for you, Elliott Wave and technical, that'll be uploaded separately. Today Bitcoin is still within a really narrow range. It's got resistance at 71,500, still finding support at 68,400, just moving sideways. At the last short-term low there's a morning star candlestick reversal pattern. I expect this bullish pattern here and the bullish engulfing pattern here suggest that these lows are likely to remain intact. Now, I say likely, I say this one very likely I expect, and this one reasonably likely, not as likely. So maybe 80% likely here, maybe 60 to 70% likely here. We could see another test of 64,530. It's possible this low for the 3rd of April could be taken out by a little bit. I don't expect any new lows below 63,370 at this point. I expect most likely we're going to see an upward breakout probably now next week. Earlier this week, I thought we were going to get it this week, but we just haven't. We've just had essentially sideways movement. This previous upward trend at this time frame did reach very extreme, so it's unsurprising we're getting a consolidation sideways movement to relieve short-term extreme conditions. At higher time frames, Bitcoin is still exhibiting a clear upward trend, and back here there was an upward breakout on an upward session week and month with push from volume. We have a technical upward breakout to new all-time highs back here in mid-March at all time frames. This is extremely bullish, and that's why I say I'm expecting that this is just sideways movement within an ongoing upward trend. My analysis of Bitcoin remains extremely bullish. As price is moving sideways, overall volume is declining. That is a normal feature of a consolidation, and consolidations are part of a normal, healthy bullish market. Do not expect price to move in a straight line. On balance, volume also has a really nice consolidation range. So Bitcoin is moving in a nice range with price, and on balance, volume has its own consolidation. The resistance line particularly now has good technical resistance with 3 or maybe 5 tests, depending on if you count this one a test. So this now is essentially flat, horizontal, reasonably long held for this time frame, and has multiple tests. All of those 3 things increase the technical significance of this line. If we see a break above resistance, that would be a strong bullish signal, and if that happens before price breaks out, we will have advance warning of price about to break out. In this way, I'll be using on balance volume as a leading indicator, and that's a really powerful way to use it. I've done it before on this channel with this market, and it's led to really good things happening very, very soon after. So let's watch this really carefully next week. ADX is still declining. It's so close to 15. This is actually really good to see a more time-consuming consolidation after the previous upward trend reached very extreme. That's when the ADX line reaches above both DX lines and above 45. This consolidation has relieved those extreme conditions, setting the market up for the next bullish run. If ADX can move below 15 and then rise up from low levels and from below both DX lines, that would be the strongest bullish signal it can give. We had that back here. It rose up from below 15. That's this line here. Positive slope, came up from below both DX lines. That very strong bullish signal from ADX happened on the 7th of February. At that point in time, price had closed at 44,339.04 and it moved up to over 70,000. So really good things happened after that very strong bullish signal. We might be getting ready to see that again. ATR continues to decline, indicating a decline in volatility as price moves sideways. Sideways movement with declining volume and volatility is a normal feature of a consolidation, which is a normal part of a healthy bullish market. My Elliott Wave count for XRP still sees it in the early stages of a 3rd wave at 5 degrees, minute, minor, intermediate, primary, and cycle. This is an extremely bullish Elliott Wave count. I have a leading expanding diagonal here for minute 1, a zigzag for minute wave 2, most likely complete. If it continues lower, and it could continue lower as a double zigzag, if it does continue lower, it may not move beyond the start of 1 below 0.4883. Daily technicals for XRP really quick, still finding support at 0.60. I expect the low for the 4th of April. The strong bullish engulfing candlestick pattern is very likely to remain intact. It did have support from volume as well. This gives us an indication that this pullback is likely complete at this low and we're likely to see onwards, upwards movement. Don't expect price to move in a straight line. The last 3 sessions we're getting, well, the last 2, just a couple of sideways movement. This session, however, for the 10th of April has a really bullish long lower wick. It's not in the context of a downward trend, so I'm not going to call it a hammer. It's in the context overall of an upward trend, but I do like to pay attention to wicks. This bullish wick suggests that support about 60 cents is likely to hold. Look for resistance along the way up at 0.675. Price is moving sideways with overall declining volume. That's normal behavior for sideways movement. On balance volume has a nice range for XRP as well. The resistance line has a bit of a slope and not as many tests as Bitcoin, but it has some technical significance now because it's reasonably long held. We might get a breakout next week, which would give us a signal. And the signal might come before a price breakout, which would be an advance warning or a leading indicator. It doesn't always come before, sometimes it comes with, which gives you confidence in the price breakout. ADX is at a really low level. It's now rising, but it's not at 15, so it's too low to indicate a trend. If it reaches 15, it will give us the strongest signal ADX can give. We might see that next week. ATR is still declining. Price is still within a consolidation zone. We need to see a breakout, and at that point, I will expect then an increase in volume and range. This is my Elliott Wave count for Solana with an entire price history from its inception back in 2020. From this low to this high, I see a really good looking 5-wave impulse. This is almost textbook perfect. We have an impulse for primary 1, a deep zigzag for primary 2, an extended impulse for primary 3. It was 12.887 times the length of primary wave 1, a regular contracting triangle for primary wave 4, so there's beautiful alternation between the zigzag of 2 and the triangle of 4. There's also fairly decent proportion. 2 lasted 16 weeks and 4 lasted 9 weeks. 4 is more brief than 2. That's actually really normal for a cryptocurrency. Sometimes though the triangles can be longer than the second wave corrections. Here the triangle is more brief than the second wave, but it does have really good proportion from this low to this high. This really does look like a 5-wave impulse. That's the best way to label it in my experience and opinion. I mean, you're free to label it another way. You could consider a double zigzag. From this high to this low, this downward movement does subdivide really well as a double zigzag. The subdivisions are just beautifully perfect. We've got the first zigzag, A is an impulse, B is zigzag C. We've got a 3 joining the 2 structures, and then we've got A, B, and C extended. There's also alternation here. Be flexible with how you apply that guideline of alternation. I went over this on another chart the other day, but I'll show it to you again. There is alternation between the zigzag of W and the zigzag of Y. Within W, A and C look a bit more even in length, whereas within Y, A, B, C. C is longer and extended. Alternation between these 2 zigzags. From this low on up, I'm now expecting a 3rd wave at cycle degree. I expect it to be a long extension. I am using the ratio that primary 3 exhibited to primary 1 within cycle wave 1. If we see that same ratio again, 12.887, then cycle 3 would reach 3.370.996. Cycle 3 may only subdivide as an impulse in a primary degree. That'll be labelled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you could make an argument that my degree of labelling here is too high. Primary 1 may be incomplete, but I'm going to label it complete here and expect a series of nested, very extended 3rd waves. So primary 2 may be over here. Primary 3 may only subdivide as an impulse. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I expect to be a long extension. If 4 continues, it may not move into wave 1 price territory below 30.056795. On this chart of the entire price history, you can see a really good strong increase in volume pushing price higher. This supports the labelling of a 3rd wave. I expect the 5th wave of this 3rd wave impulse to be very, very strong upward movement, and I expect if Solana can break to new all-time highs above 260.0621, we may then see an release in energy and vertical upward movement, huge explosions in upward movement, because it's very common for cryptocurrencies to exhibit very strong 5th waves in bull markets exhibiting blow-off tops to end 3rd waves 1 degree higher, and that tendency is especially prevalent for large degree 3rd waves. This is a really good looking piece of impulsive movement that has a typical look for a cryptocurrency. Slow start, acceleration through the middle, explosion at the end, tiny little bit of weakness at the very end, and here's your explosive upward movement. I'm expecting a curve to look like that, slow start, Acceleration through the middle, we're starting to see that now. I'll expect an explosion at the end. Let's take a look at the daily time frame. The low of intermediate wave 4 is this point down here. We are now zooming in on the structure of intermediate 5. I expect this to be a long extended part of primary wave 3. I expect this to be the strongest part of primary 3. From this low to this high, I can see a reasonably decent looking 5-wave impulse. From this high on down, I see an incomplete zigzag. I expect we may have A, zigzag for B, and C could be completing as some kind of contracting diagonal. I'll probably look at that in a little bit more detail tomorrow. I don't have the time to do that today. But C would need to move beyond the end of A if minor wave 2 is a zigzag, so I would expect to see downward movement at least 2 or below 163.296260 in order for C to avoid a truncation. Truncations are very rare. Minor 2 technically may not move beyond the start of 1, below 79.066696. I don't expect it to get anywhere near that point. It could be as deep as the log function of the 0.382 Fibonacci ratio at 144.46956. But I think that might be a little bit too deep. I'm just looking for C to reach at or below the end of A to avoid a truncation, and as soon as that's happened, I'll be looking for a third wave up at multiple degrees to start to show a real increase in strength. A quick look at technicals for Solana on the daily. This last short-term low for the 10th of April completes as a dragonfly doji in the context of a short-term downward pullback. This tells us that this pullback about support at 168 may well be complete. We've got just a little bit of sideways movement. We don't have strength up off this low yet, but unfortunately, Solana, like pretty much every other cryptocurrency chart I've ever looked at, often exhibits weakness off their lows. I keep saying it, but it bears repeating. It makes the lows really difficult to identify. Sometimes you can't be confident that a low is going to be sustained for days or sometimes even weeks after it's formed. Look for resistance along the way up at 210 and 215. The moving average situation is bullish. The 50-day moving average has a positive slope. It's above the 200-day moving average, which is back down here, and price is above both. The short-term 13-day Fibonacci 13-day moving average has a negative slope and prices below it, so short-term pullback with an ongoing mid and longer-term upward trend. As price is moving sideways, essentially volume overall is declining. That's a normal feature of a consolidation, which is part of a normal healthy bullish market. Solana has some resistance for on-balance volume and support as well. The support line's only got 2 tests. This short-term resistance line now has 3 tests. I'm counting this. If we see a break above this, that would be a short-term weak bullish signal. Weak because the line is short-held and only has 3 tests, one of them slightly questionable. ADX at this time frame now indicates a downward trend. So this offers a little bit of support to my Elliott Wave view that we're going to see a bit more downward movement, but the Dragonfly Doji contradicts that. So my short-term Elliott Wave count, we could see a truncated C wave, and this is the context of a huge third wave at multiple degrees in which a small truncation could occur. So that doji suggests potentially a truncation. For the short term, ADX has finally caught up with the fact that Solana's been in a short-term pullback. It is a lagging indicator here based on a 14-day average. Previously, it did indicate the upward trend up to the last high. The previous upward trend had very deeply overbought RSI. The consolidation has pulled RSI back into neutral territory. Room again for the larger upward trend to continue. Money flow reached overbought. Now it's in neutral. Room again for the upward trend to continue. ATR declining as price moves sideways with declining volume is a normal feature of a consolidation, which is a healthy part of a bullish run. I expect overall Solana to continue on up. That's it for me today with your extra update for Solana and the others as per usual. I won't be doing Solana 5 days a week yet, but that is coming soon when we launch our new Ethereum analysis, and when Jack Frost is able to give you technical analysis of Ethereum, he'll be giving you technical analysis of Solana. Until then, you'll get it from me every now and then.